Hey, you're wide receiver Khalil Shakir, right?
I sure am, kid. Here, go long.
Whoa! You're pretty good at football, man.
And you guys are pretty good at pizza.
Oh, sick. Dude.
What is up, everybody? It is Buffalo Bills Football Sunday, and we are here for the Picasso's pregame show. Get your Picasso's pizza anywhere nationwide and in Western New York today for the 4:05 kickoff against the Seattle Seahawks. Jake might get here, joined by Maniac, as we are here, as we are every Sunday, to pregame the Bills big matchup. Well, every game day, whatever it is, because the game's been all over the place. But we're in a nice rhythm with some Sundays here, Maniac, and now we get a late Sunday afternoon. So how are you doing? How are you doing this today before the Bills game? We got a lot of time, but not as much time as a primetime game. It's a weird spot, you know. These 4:05, 4:25 games really start getting to me. Like it throws off my rhythm once we get later into the year.
I agree. It throws off the rhythm. Now, if I had my preference, we would play 4:05, 4:25 every week.
Game.
I think it's perfect. You get to play on Sundays, so you don't have to mess with the rest. You don't have to mess with the scheduling, but you also get to focus on the 1 o'clock games, where I think when you play in the 1 o'clock window, you don't really get to pay attention to what's going on. Yeah, you hear the headlines, and you'll go back and watch the highlights, et cetera, whatever, but you don't really get to focus on. So I love the 4 o'clock window. Looking forward to a great day of football and looking forward to completing our 3-2-3 sandwich. 3 wins to start the season, 2 losses, and then 3 on the other side to finish the first half, Micah.
Well, yeah, and we're in a good spot right now. So let's look at the playoff picture graphic we got here. This is according to the ESPN Football Power Index. Bills at 98% to make the playoffs, 94% to win the division, 20% to make the Super Bowl, 13% to earn a playoff bye. Being at 5-2 right now down this stretch, huge for those numbers. I mean, on Pay the Bills before the season, Maniac, me, Carson, and Mike picked them to be 4-3 at this point. So, like, even us, like, we're pretty optimistic about the Bills going into the season. Obviously, that's even before a Cooper trade too, but still thought that they wouldn't even be at this point in the season. And so they're ahead of schedule in my book. And this is an opportunity where this feels like, you know, the next 3 games, all winnable. Today is probably the trickiest of the bunch, just from personnel-wise and team-wise and talent-wise and everything with Seattle. I know that, you know, the Dolphins are getting healthier and the Colts, you know, are in a playoff spot right now. That's going to be a tricky game too. But this feels like the tricky one here. But if you get through this 3-game stretch, you'd be feeling real good going 8-2 into Kansas City. But we got to start here this week in Seattle with a pretty big game with a 4-3 Seahawks team. Have you seen much of the Seahawks this year? Are you impressed by them? What Geno Smith's doing out there? He's just kind of slinging the ball around. I think he's first in passing this year, which was kind of a surprise prepping for the game this week.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. We all know that, what was it, a year and a half ago or 2.5 years ago, they wrote this guy off and he didn't write back. So I always fear a Geno Smith. I am reminded that 10 years ago, yesterday, he actually threw a couple of interceptions against the Bills as a member of the Jets. So you got to remember that you can make him look bad as well. And Mike, I think the key to that will be ultimately whether number 14 takes the field for the Seahawks. Obviously, DK Metcalf has been, you know, he was week to week at the beginning of the week, but then it was kind of like mysterious throughout the week. I felt like I was the only one taking crazy pills, Micah. This guy's week to week, but somehow he might play this week. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
The week to week designation is getting played around with loosely, yeah. But I there's no way. I think if you were, say we're on the flip side and the Bills had DK Metcalf, would you want him to play in this game 1 week after? I think I'd rather sit him and get him ready for the stretch run. That's just where I'm at with him. So I don't anticipate.
I'm right on the same page there with you. So yeah, without DK Metcalf, I do expect to see a little bit of a different Seattle offense. But given the weather, we might have been seeing that anyway, Micah.
That's true. The weather in Seattle. Well, the last thing on the playoff picture before we jump into the weather.
Playoff picture. I do apologize. Way ahead of schedule, just like you said. I think a lot of Bills fans had 4-3. You look at the matchups. It's basically, to me, it's the Dolphins and the Jets games are the only games that have gone Dolphins, Jets, and Texans. Those were kind of the 3 toss-ups, I think, going into the year. And the Bills are 2-1 in those games. So you're going to take that.
Exactly. Yep. And just looking at the AFC picture as a whole right now, the Bills 4th in the conference because they've lost those head-to-head games with the Texans and Ravens. So they're going to be that's the thing about all these games. People talk about, the NFC game not as important, whatever. This year, it's not really going to matter. Like, the Bills can't afford to lose these games if they want to be a higher seed, because these teams are going to be around the same record as them, and they've already lost those tiebreaker privileges. Potentially can get it over Kansas City later in the year, but that's going to be the toughest thing about the road ahead. And if the playoffs ended today, they would be playing the Steelers at home again in a wild card matchup. So more things change.
slowly but surely, the picture around KC has changed. I think at the beginning of the year, you're like, yeah, they're good, but they're going to lose a couple. And now that they're at 6-0, I think truly, as a Bills fan, Micah, you can't even have the discussion about them until they lose a game. The Bills have to keep winning, and you literally cannot even talk about that situation until they lose a game.
Yep, and they're playing the Vegas Raiders today, so it doesn't feel like today's the day. The weather in Seattle, though, as you mentioned, we are expecting, it's 51 there right now, and there is a 75% chance of rain, and it looks like the afternoon is where the chance is the highest. So a rainy, wet, chilly day in Seattle in late October, about what you would expect from there. But the conditions are definitely going to be a factor today there at Lumen Field. But again, with those kind of rainy conditions, we're talking like quarterback play and everything, always favors Josh Allen to me. And also just we're looking at this game from a just on the field perspective. It feels like the Bills are going to have a chance to lean on their run game. This defense for the Seahawks, great in the pass, not so great in the run department. So maybe that rain is going to help them out. I think it favors the Bills, honestly, if it's a rainy, wet day out there.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I think everyone would agree that the Seahawks have the best running back in the form of Kenneth Walker right now. James Cook not far behind him, but the Bills have a little bit better of a platoon, right, with what they've seen from Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, and James Cook this year. So you have a number of hands that can take the ball. I don't know. I know it benefits us overall for Josh Allen throwing the ball. I wonder if it benefits us for Josh Allen being in the pocket and like kind of moving a lot, because, he does like to move a lot and use that to his advantage. Typically when he gets hit, it's not an issue because he's got a good grip on the ball, but I'll be interested to see that. And Micah, whatever happened to the rest of these softies around the NFL? I feel like I see storms kind of delaying games sometimes. Is this possibly a storm that could get us into prime time tonight? Maybe a second Sunday night game?
It doesn't look like we got any lightning in the forecast or anything, so we should be okay there. 15-mile-an-hour winds with 30-mile-an-hour gusts, though, so it's gonna be whipping out there. It's gonna be a crazy weather day. So if we get one flash, we might be moving into some Sunday night football territory with our guy Maniac Tom Brady on the call today.
I can't believe that I'm getting ready for this game and I'm seeing more Tom Brady underdog promotion than anything. Now I will say this. The underdog promotion is totally earned because this guy has been doggy doo-doo on the call so far. And I'm sorry, this is not me hating. Everyone knows that when Tom went to Tampa, I loved him. Yep. That I am on the record as a big lover of Tampa Tom. I thought everything he did with down there was great. And it proved that outside of Belichick, Tom Brady can be like an actual legit dude. With that said, and I get why they have to market him that way, but he's like really like does not add anything on the broadcast. I've watched a couple. Yeah, he gives like occasional insight, but like, where's like the stories and like, where's the like identification of the defense in like real time? Like that was what I was looking for. And I just feel like you get none of that. So maybe he'll do a little bit something because he has played against the Bills. I feel like he hasn't gotten like a Jets or a Dolphins game, or like, someone that he played a lot or like, I think he got Mahomes once or whatever, but I don't think he's
basically been the personal Cowboys commentator to start the year. I think
and the Cowboys have always been like a blowout one way or the other. Yeah. So they haven't done him any favors. Like I'll give him that. And like the Browns game, the Cowboys blew out the Browns week one. Like so again, I know that the games haven't done him many favors, but it's like you would think in a boring game he would be able to stand out a little bit more. But yeah, he is. To be honest, I'm actually dreading hearing him. Maybe we'll see if we can get the radio feed turned on today at Rec Room so we can listen to Chris Brown instead of Tom Brady. But before we put a button on the weather and move on, Micah, I want to ask you: do you look at this weather right now? And there's no 1,000% right answer because it's more speculative. Do you think there's better chances of like broken tackles and going to the house with the wetness and the slick weather? Or do you think there's more chance for like buffoonery and fumbles all over the place?
Ooh. I think some broken tackles on this, the way this game's going to play out. I think that these rushing attacks, especially, you mentioned Kenneth Walker already. He's a beast. James Cook, Ray Davis. I think they're breaking some tackles and making some extra plays today. Maybe some chicanery. This game does feel like it could be a little chaotic. That's just the vibe I'm getting. So I could see some stuff like that. But I think some broken tackles. I think we've got some studs at wide receiver across the board here too, both teams at this point. So I think that the playmakers are going to be able to make some plays today in this weather. I think it's tougher for the defenses. Speaking of playmakers playing plays, let's check in on the Josh Allen MVP front, where the odds are kind of all over the place across the books, Maniac. But what everybody agrees with right now is that Lamar Jackson is the favorite, Patrick Mahomes second, Josh Allen third in most books. At the highest, I think he's plus 650 at FanDuel, and the lowest I see him here is plus 500 at DraftKings, where he's only, a little bit behind Mahomes. But are you surprised at all to see Mahomes still in that spot ahead of Allen? I feel like, everybody's
No. I'll jump right in here because there's no need to go any further. It's all about winning. Like if you win, it takes a precedent over the stats. The MVP watch would rather see you go 180 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 int and win than see you go 260, 2 TDs, no turnovers and lose. They really would. They really would rather see you do that. So there's a method to the madness, and I do call it madness because I think if you look right now, like I think the Ravens might be okay without Lamar Jackson. I think, and by okay, I mean, like, I think they'd be competing for a wild card still.
Yeah.
Like the Chiefs without Mahomes, like, I think we've seen numerous times, not for prolonged periods, but Mahomes has gotten injured, and we've seen, like, Chad Henne and co. go in and kind of operate the offense. I just think that right now, if you took Patrick Allen off the Bills, they're in a lot of trouble. So that's why I have the view that I do. But I totally understand why the MVP odds the way they are. I was surprised that Lamar got so much of a bump, but he really did flash in the first half of that Tampa Bay game. I think Tampa Bay was up like 7-0. You blinked, and then it was like, Baltimore up multiple scores.
Sure.
So when you do something like that in prime time, especially, Mike, I think during Lamar's MVP campaign, he had like a 5 or a 6 touchdown game against LA in prime time around like late November or December.
Yep.
And that really sealed it. Like prime time can really make a big effect. So 425 is a small version of that. If Allen can go 200, 2 TDs, and make some plays today, Mahomes loses somehow as a double-digit favorite, I would expect a cataclysmic shift. But for the time being, the Super Bowl and MVP odds are almost tied up, Micah, because as the Ravens and Chiefs continue to win, the MVP odds, it'll be almost impossible for Allen to catch them there, and they're not going to shift for the Super Bowl picture.
Yeah, and they're not going to shift that, especially on the Mahomes front. They're not going to shift that. The second they shift Mahomes to like a plus 700, who's not hammering that?
Oh my God, you'd be crazy.
This, right?
You'd be crazy now.
So that's what I was talking with some friends this week and everything. I was like, they're never moving it because the second he's the fourth, lowest odds or whatever, everybody's betting on Mahomes. And then Vegas is sweating all year for the inevitable Mahomes turn up in the second half, and he's like, plus 150 or something. So I understand why he's there, and Lamar's earned it. Lamar's played great at the start of the season, but it's only the start of the season. So I think Allen's got plenty of time to make up that ground. And yeah, like you said, today's a great opportunity to start that run and kind of a national-ish. It's going to a lot of the country. So I would say a national.
This is the primetime game in the 4:00 spot.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be the Bears and Commanders, but there's no Jaden Daniels likely today. So that's not, it's not really as big of a deal as I think most of the country's attention is going to be on this Bills-Seahawks game in the 4:00 window. So
real quick,
said,
speaking of the attention, let me put you to the test again. So we're halfway through the season. What do you think the lowest that the Bills Super Bowl odds and the Bills and Josh Allen MVP odds could possibly be by the end of the season? Because you said it yourself. It's like Mahomes is not going to get anti-leveraged and Lamar is there. And then you have the same thing for the Chiefs and Ravens. So it's really the same discussion that we're talking about here. Right now, the Bills and Josh Allen are 5 to 7 to 1 to win the Super Bowl / MVP. I think the lowest that number can get on either side by the end of the season is and this is without injury. I just want to clarify that. Obviously, if Lamar and Patrick and Mahomes somehow got injured, knock on wood, because it's crazy, and you want to watch the best NFL product you can. The lowest, with barring injury, that I think you can get to is plus 275, plus 300, if that makes sense.
Yep.
The Bills basically maybe lose one more game the rest of the stretch. Kansas City, the numbers finally catch up with them. Lamar has a bad game or two, but again, the Bills just get hotter than hot for the second half of the season, and that's where he gets it. So I got plus 275, plus 300, the lowest that number can be going into the playoffs.
I was going to say plus 350, maybe. That would be the lowest. So yeah, 3-1 around there, I think is the exact number, 7-2, whatever. Something around that where it feels they're never going to get to that ultimate favorite unless these teams kind of fumble and trip over themselves a little bit down the way. Because otherwise they're just going to look head to head and be like, we'll just take these teams right now. Vegas will, at least. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. There's probably going to be good value on the Bills throughout the season compared to the AFC contenders. But I would still strike now while the iron's hot before this 3-game stretch, especially. All right, let's look
and don't forget that they've already almost cut that in half. They were 7/8 to 1 to win the AFC before the season, and they're down to 4.5/5 to 1. So go on, Micah.
If you got plus AFC East odds, more power to you, because
those
things flipped on their head. So let's get into it a little bit with this game today. Wild cards for today, Maniac. Who you got for the Bills? Who's the guy you're looking for to make some plays?
Okay, so we are gonna go with the interior of the line and Daquan Jones. I'm sorry, it seems too obvious. I don't look at him as a wild card because it's hard for him to stick out. But, is it going to be on 2nd and 4 when they try and get that easy first down with Kenneth Walker, a loss of 2? Those plays, keeping Seattle off schedule and forcing Geno to throw from 3rd and 5 or more, that's the wild card that I'm looking for in this weather today, Micah.
I like it. I love it. I'm going to go pretty obvious one here with a wild card, but it's a guy who needs to make a lot of plays, especially with a lackluster rush defense and a good rush offense and passing offense. A good passing offense with Seattle. The Bills are going to need some plays from their linebackers. Balin Spector's got a ball out today with the Terrell Bernard injury. If he steps in there, Dorian Williams, he's been a tackle machine. I think Dorian Williams has been awesome this year, honestly, for everything they've asked of him. So Spector squarely in this matchup where you would expect, Seattle to try to either run at him or run a lot of plays over. They love throwing over the middle of the field, especially with Metcalf out. He's their big outside receiver. They're going to try to dominate the middle of the field with Lockett and Smith and Jigba. So Spector's going to have a lot on his hands today. So I think he's a big wild card. And I've liked what I saw from Spector when he stepped in so far this year. But just a big test for him. And depending on if he has a good game today, I think the defense has a good game as the major backup coming in today for Bernard. So excited to see how he kind of plays today. Let's get into our parlays, our predictions here as we wrap up at the bottom. I'll start with my parlay and then we'll get to yours. I've got Ray Davis and James Cook to score touchdowns today. It gets you to plus 1,036. I love this because, as we talked about a couple times today, the rush defense for Seattle is one of the worst in the league. Their pass offense is great. Pass defense is great. It's going to be a rainy day there. We know the Bills want to establish the run and be able to run the ball. I think they do that plenty today. And I think both running backs get opportunities towards the goal line to get touchdowns on after long drives here. So I like the value here on both running backs, Davis and Cook, getting it. It's going to happen at some point this year. They're both going to score a touchdown in the game. So why not today?
All right, I like it. I'm going to just go into the trends. They might be a little too obvious, but Metcalf out. The Bills have got off to relatively slow starts on the road offensively. So I'm going to be taking the under overall in this game, 45.5. And then I will take Kincaid anytime TD. I've been a little bit bullish on that. I think I've only hit it 1 out of 3 times in the parlay picks or everything. But I think that can be heating up, and especially in a game where the short intermediate passing might be a little bit more important. Kincaid anytime. It gets you to 650. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. And Kincaid looked so much easier for him last week with Cooper on the field. So one of these games is going to be the big breakout where he gets maybe a couple touchdowns in a big 100-yard game or something. So, hey, it's worth keep throwing it out there.
Got it. You should be able to just go right up to the line. You should be able to identify a good matchup, and then you should be able to pick it out.
Yep, exactly. So those were our Picasso's parlays. I had Davis and Cook anytime touchdowns. It gets you over plus 1,000. Then Maniac under, and a Kincaid anytime touchdown for plus 650. We're into the predictions part. We're here. We're going to make our final predictions for the day. The Seahawks, as we talked about, no Metcalf. Great passing offense. Geno leading the league in passing. He's going to try to air it out. Kenneth Walker's pretty good. This defense is suspect, though. They can be got, especially in the run game. By the Bills. It's an interesting season for the Seahawks where they started off 3-0, they lose 3 in a row, and then win last week. So they've had a different kind of season of runs. They're a great team at home. They're a different team at home. But I think I picked on Tuesday 24-21 or 27-24 or something. I'm going to stick with that 27-21. That's the score I'm going to go with today for the Bills. So that's it. Yeah, that we have a good one today on our hands at 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. The Bills at the Seahawks. Let's get Maniac in here. We're back.
But
All right,
listen,
Maniac.
the Seattle, CIA tried to take me out, but you can't do it. So what'd you have for your prediction? I apologize.
27-21 Bills today.
Okay, so you got a little scoring. Yeah, I just think we're ultimately going to see, like, I think I've even predicted this a couple times this season, but, a slow, trudgy offense. I agree with what you're saying. I think we're going to establish the ground and pound early and often. I got the Bills winning this game. Give me like a missed extra point or something just from Bass to piss everyone off. Give me 26-17 Bills.
Okay.
26-17.
That feels right. That feels right. I like that a lot. So we got Bills wins, though, improving to 6-2 on the year, going into Miami week at home. That would feel great halfway through the season. We're at the halfway point already. I can't believe we're there. But
yeah,
huge game
it's been a quick
today in
season. It's been going very quickly. If you and Ferris Bueller, if you blink, you might just miss it. So everyone enjoy it. Hopefully, we have a lot to enjoy today at 4:05.
That's what we're hoping for. So enjoy your Sunday before then. Get out there, get your Picasso's order in, get that Picasso's pizza in Western New York and anywhere nationwide. So for Maniac, Jake Micah signing off. Have a great day.